folks, Tamron recently sent me out their brand new 18 to 400mm super zoom travel lens to test out. I'm heading off to Hong Kong for a week and I've got a bunch of different shooting situations planned, so I thought this is the perfect situation to see, can I really get away with just a single camera, single lens kit for my entire trip when I usually travel with so much stuff. So let's find out. All the shots you see in this video will be taken with the 18 to 400. Let's take a look at the lens. Compared to a lot of variable apertures, hyper zoom lenses that I've used, this has a bit more weight to it and it certainly feels better built. It does have a rear weather sealing gasket, it's got a metal mount to the foot, it's got their VC in there, which is meant to be good for several stops of vibration compensation. Of course, being such a long zoom lens, it is a variable aperture. This is an f3.5 at the wide end to an f6.3 at the long end. And of course, this is an APS-C format lens. This is not for full frame cameras, so you need to apply the crop factor. So I'm going to be shooting this on the fantastic Nikon D500 that I rented from Lens Pro to Go. I've used this in Africa in all kinds of different situations. Great camera. With the crop factor, that means that this is going to have an effective focal length, what we actually see in the shot, of 27mm on the wide end, which is wide but not ultra wide. But then on the long end, it's going to have an effective focal length of 600mm, which is super long. So 27 through to 600, over 20 times in terms of total zoom range. So let's take it to Hong Kong and see how it does. First up on my adventure to test out this new lens, I headed over to Cheung Chau. Cheung Chau is a small fishing island just off Hong Kong that's really traditional. There's still no cars on the island, it's purely pedestrian, and you see all kinds of different seafoods drying in the air ready for sale, and I really do mean all kinds. At this time of year, the beaches are full of tourists from Hong Kong and abroad coming over for day trips, but that's not what I'm here for. I'm actually here for the nature. There's some great walks. But before I get into that, I was really struck by just how extreme the 20 times zoom is. Take a look at these shots. The first at the wide end at 18mm, then zoomed all the way in at 400mm to pull out individual details. And of course, because this is Hong Kong, a couple of puppies being taught to swim wearing life vests. Of course. You're the friendly one, huh?
Yeah.
Hello. Oh, you're very cold though. Hey. You take them swimming?
Yeah.
Oh my God, that's amazing. Now, Cheung Chau is relatively small. It's kind of like Phi Phi Island in Thailand, but once you get away from the built-up area, in each corner of the island, there's some great bushwalking. So I took a little wander around for the whole afternoon to find some different things to shoot. Coming back just around sunset, beautiful time in the harbour to shoot, and we got an especially clear day, which was nice. And the resulting shot. Back on Hong Kong Island, I got a friend and model in to do some portraits to test out the two different ends of this lens. Hong Kong is one of the most densely populated places in the world, and my hotel had a rooftop in amongst all of the buildings. So we shot some images wide and tight using both ends of the lens. First of all showing the actual scene, and then showing her in the environment, and then much tighter shots just showing the buildings as a blurred out background. It really gives for some diversity in the types of results we can get from one short shoot. And by chance, there was a black kite flying around, which I was able to grab focus on in the one pass it made with the D500 and the 18 to 400. Next up, I headed into Tsim Sha Tsui to the ferry terminal. The rooftop car park there has a beautiful view over the harbour. Hong Kong's Victoria Harbour is incredibly busy with boats, and each night the buildings just light up. If you can time it so you're there at the time when the city lights are on and the skylights are getting dim, you can really balance it out and get some beautiful shots. Here's a couple of shots taken with the 18 to 400 right out at 18mm. Including this that's a bit more of an apocalyptic edit. Okay, so far we've seen some great nature at Cheung Chau, and we got lucky getting some birds whilst we were shooting on the roof. But I thought, why not actually come out to where there's loads of migratory birds? Hong Kong actually has a wetlands. It's right up near the border of China. This is my first time coming here. Not the best weather to come. It's like 100 degrees and 95% humidity before you hit the wetlands. But I think this will be a great opportunity to test out the long end on this and see how it tracks moving birds and people walking through with garbage cans on their head. How you doing?
So the wetlands they're a tourist attraction. It's actually somewhat artificial. It's put together as a habitat for the animals, but it really is quite a nice oasis. There's a lot of bugs, but some beautiful lilies, bulbs, and this was the first flying thing I actually came across, some kind of big hornet. Being a wetlands, no surprise, loads of fish around as well. Not too photogenic, but the waterfalls were lovely if you brought along a tripod and an ND. And for me, the lilies are just lovely. But I came here for birds, so I found one of their hides, went in, GoPro on the camera to take a look around. And to be honest, I didn't see much. There was one pigeon, and I spotted a couple of sparrows just fleeting past on the reflected water, but zooming in really close with the 400mm, there was loads of little crabs wandering about. Next I got out and got my shoes dirty looking for some butterflies. If there's no birds, I'm at least gonna find some butterflies.
That's crazy. The closest thing to a bird shot I might get this whole day is a butterfly. Okay, so despite the website saying this was a prime time for coming to see birds, as soon as we got here, the help desk said, it's summer, so there's not many birds here. At least it's fantastic weather for losing some weight by sweating it out. There are loads of fish though. It is a beautiful spot though. If you come to Hong Kong, definitely check it out. I'm surprised there's such a nice oasis here. I just hope we see some birds. Oh, there's China.
Up in the mangroves area, there's all kinds of little crabs and mud skippers there. The mud skippers actually go into the crabs' holes and oxygenate them, so it's kind of a symbiotic relationship. But for me, the crabs are kind of cool looking and the other things aren't so much. There were, however, loads of cool looking dragonflies, and I actually got my cell phone in there under the canopy. It was actually really dark and my ISO had to be up quite high to get a decent exposure.
In terms of birds, today was kind of a washout. I saw one pigeon, 3 sparrows, a whole lot of crabs. All of those I think I could find on a restaurant menu right near my hotel back on Hong Kong Island though. But we did also see some nice butterflies, and the main takeaway I had from today, why today was still really worthwhile coming here, was this lens actually works great for video. 18 to 400 is such a versatile range. I was shooting the little crabs in the mud in the mangrove area, and on the wide shot you could barely see them. They were like an inch across, but going in with an effective focal length of 600mm using the VC to stabilize, you could really see them like foraging through all of the sand and feeding themselves. It was pretty cool. So I think I've lost about 1 kilo in water weight today. That's another bonus. I think it's time to head back to Hong Kong Island, find a bar and replenish.
Here's a couple of last shots from my day at the wetlands.
Okay, so as always, I had an awesome time in Hong Kong. It's like my second home. A couple of firsts for me though. That was my first time being there at such a hot time of year. 35, 40 degrees Celsius, close to 100 Fahrenheit, and so humid. And my first time in a long time taking along just the single camera and lens for the majority of my shooting. And as you saw, we shot a range of different stuff and it did really well. I was surprised especially by how well it did with video and how it let me focus so close. So at 400mm, I was able to really get some great close-up shots. Now, being so hot, I really appreciated being able to just take around a simple bag or just the camera and lens on a strap rather than a whole bag of equipment that I would normally travel with. Of course, when I was taking along some filters and a travel tripod, then I had my backpack, but it was still a much lighter kit than I would typically travel with. Now, I can't say that this is any kind of comprehensive review. I was setting up the shoots to try the different ends of the lens and trying to find birds specifically to test out the long end and that kind of thing. But I can say I really enjoyed traveling with this, and it simplified things a great deal. Rather than stopping and changing lenses all the time or working out which of the 10 pieces of equipment I brought along I wanted to take out for the day, this really covered it. And yes, at the long end, it becomes a fairly long lens. But compare that to any other 400mm or 600mm equivalent, and it really isn't. And the balance is good across the lens. And the fact that it actually has the locking mechanism, so you can just lock that whilst you're walking around and you're not going to have to worry about it creeping if your camera's facing to the ground as you're wandering through the city. It really performed well. I'm surprised by the variety of shots and video footage that I was able to get with this. Let me know what you're shooting with when you travel, and if you've been looking for something to simplify your travel kit. I know for myself, when I'm on assignment, I often have 20 or 30 kilograms worth of equipment with me, with a couple of bodies and 6, 8 or even 10 different lenses for different applications. So for a job like this where the variable aperture was suitable and that range of zoom really worked for me, it worked great. Let me know your thoughts, and I'll see you soon.